We have Joe with us here today on the eve of opening day. We will jump right into questions. Let's start off with Matt Gelb.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Matt.
I'm wondering, will Hazley or Quinn start against the lefty tomorrow, and how do you envision center field going?
Yeah, I have not talked to either one about that yet, so it's not fair to share. I will get to those guys today at some point, and then I will probably put out a lineup.
Do you envision that being a platoon? Do you envision Hazley getting the majority, or if it's a lefty, can Quinn get in there?
You know, Matt, I would love to talk about it, but I haven't talked to them about it, right? So I got to make sure that I talk to them first.
Let's go to Jim Salisbury and then Todd Zalecki.
Probably the only question you don't know the answer to. I'm sorry.
Jim?
Joe, have you informed anybody who will be closing? Maybe if you have a lead on.
Yes,
on
Hector.
Thursday.
I will close with Hector. I will kind of use Bradley and Alvarado as setup guys. And I think when you look at some of like Brogdon and Kinsler and Coonrod, we can use those guys at any time. And they could fill in if one guy wasn't available. I think Kinsler's a guy that's done it all. So, you know, I'm comfortable with that. Using David Hale more as, you know, multiple inning guy, and Vinny is a multiple inning guy.
Can you tell us about the decision? What went into your decision with Hector?
Yeah, I really like the way that, I mean, I like the way all three of them threw the ball. When you look at Archie, Archie's kind of a guy that you can ask to give you multiple innings in a sense, more than 3 outs on occasions because he's comfortable doing his willingness to pitch at any time. Alvarado's that lefty I can deploy against the lefties where they are in the lineup. And, you know, Hector's closed and he's closed here. And I like the way, you know, for the most part, I thought he, you know, after a little slow start last year, I thought he threw the ball pretty well. And I like the way he threw the ball this spring.
Do you think he will deploy that slider, which he's had for a few years, but he really hasn't thrown?
Well, I think with the development of it this spring, I definitely think he will use it.
How much of a difference will that make?
I think it can make a big difference because it just gives him another weapon. And I think anytime that you're a 2-pitch pitcher, your pitches have to be really, really elite. And Hector's got an elite split and he has the ability to pitch up, but they got a 50-50 chance of guessing right? So now it changes their chances.
Joe, because the bullpen was such an issue last year, did you consider the whole perception of going with a guy that closed a lot last year and had some nervous ninth innings? And just in terms of, did you think about, I'm going to go with a new guy for just because this is a new year, we were bad last year and I want a total fresh start?
No, I didn't. What I wanted to do was I wanted to look at the makeup of our bullpen and what it was and put it together. Hector's been a successful closer. Archie's been a successful closer. I know Alvarado could close. Kinsler's been a successful closer. I know they can all do it. But again, I just decided to go with Hector. He's done it. He's done it in this town, and I like the way he's throwing the baseball.
Great. And just what are the plans down there today? What are you guys doing?
We just have a simulated game for Chase Anderson. That's it.
Who's getting the ABs?
Let's see. Maton is here. Kingery is here. Joyce is going to get a couple. Who else is here? I know Roman might be here. So okay. Yesterday we had 4 hitters. We'll try to do the same.
Okay. Thanks for your time, Joe.
Yes.
Joe, Jimmy kind of answered my questions, but let me ask you, Brad Miller, I assume he's good to go, et cetera?
Oh, yeah, he's hitting today too.
Okay.
Yeah, we anticipate he'll be fine.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Yes.
Let's go to Jamie Apodi and then John Clark.
Hi, Joe. Can you just talk about your overall excitement for the season? You know, just A, to have fans back in the stands, B, to be, well, for the first time for you, and B, your excitement about having hopefully 162 games again and somewhat of a normal experience?
I've been through a number of opening days, and they're always exciting. There's always butterflies. You really look forward to it. But I don't know. I feel like this one is different. Your first one is different as a player, your first one as a manager. But I feel like this one is different because we didn't have fans last year. It just has a completely different feeling. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I'm really looking as the season progresses, we're allowed more and more fans, and it really gets back to normal. I think when you see people come through the turnstiles and in the seats tomorrow, it's just going to feel like we're getting our lives back somewhat. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. To see fans in spring training was really, really nice. And not to have pumped in crowd noise and all of that. It was just, it felt like we were alive again, right? I mean, it just felt like it was baseball, and I can't wait till tomorrow.
Hey, good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
With the temperature tomorrow, I guess in the 40s, but with wind, I guess it's going to be real feel in the 30s. For Aaron Nola,
For letting me know that.
I apologize. That's some bad news, but for Aaron Nola, especially a guy who, grew up in Louisiana pitching in warm weather, how much can that cold weather affect a pitcher, especially, this time of year, opening day, that kind of thing?
Well, I think it affects everybody. And I think if you were to ask ball players what they hate more than anything, it's probably wind when it's cold. It can be 40 degrees and sunny, and players are like, oh, this isn't bad, right? Because they're moving around, but that wind makes it tough. But, for trying to get your feel on the pitchers can be difficult. But the thing about it is, this isn't the first time Aaron's went through this. I mean, he's been through this. He knows how to prepare for this. So could it affect him? Yeah, it could affect everybody. It could, anyone who's playing tomorrow it could affect. But I think the guys will grind through it, and they'll be just fine.
Thanks, Joe.
Let's go to Bob Brookover and then Pat Allen.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Bob.
Sticking with the weather theme for a second, what's the worst opening day you can ever remember weather-wise?
Oh, wow. Well, it's not a big league opening day. It was my first Big Ten series against the University of Wisconsin, where we started the game and it was about 36 degrees with a 26-degree wind chill factor, and we got snowed out in the fifth inning. That was the worst opening day I've ever been through. And the only way to stay warm were the parents who came brought us hot chocolate on the bench. There were no heaters. We were in Madison, Wisconsin. And at that point I was asking me, okay, so why did I go to a cold weather city? But I think the worst day I ever remember was a day in May against the White Sox, and Andy Pettitte was pitching. It was absolutely freezing. The wind was howling in Chicago, and it was the coldest baseball game professionally that I ever remember playing, and it was in May.
On a different theme, how well do you, and I don't even know if you look at these things, but how well do you think you guys match up with the Braves? And what does it mean to go against a team that's won your division 3 times in a row, just right out of the chute?
They're a really good team, and we know that, and we have to prove that, we do match up against them and the rest of the division on a daily basis. I like our club. I think there's a lot of talent on this club, and you can talk about talent, and you can talk about what guys are able to do, but the great thing is you have to prove it on the field, and I think our guys are looking forward to that challenge.
What have you admired most of it? You've been maybe the series that changed your life, the '96 series against the Braves, but what have the Braves done over the years that you most admire?
I think it's really consistency, and they're able to sustain runs. They're not a club that necessarily goes to a 1 or 2 year run and then they fall off. They they're able to put some really long runs together, and then they have to rebuild a little bit, and they're able to do it again. And I think that's, since I remember, playing against the Braves, that's kind of been their trademark.
And in your mind, are they the team to beat, even though the Mets reloaded? Are they the team to beat in the division?
Well, the thing is, we got to beat a lot of teams in our division when you look at it. But I mean, they won last year. They were a game away from going to the World Series, I believe it was. So I mean, I think they're probably considered the favorite. Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Just to sort of piggyback Bob's question about the division, how much time do you spend sort of stacking yourself up to the teams that you'll be seeing quite a bit this year?
Well, I pretty much focus on the team that we're always playing. I don't try to get too far ahead of myself because so many things can change in a couple of days in the game of baseball. So, right now I'm just really digging into the Braves and what they do. And, they're a little bit different than last year, not completely different. They added Charlie Morton into the rotation. Some of their bullpen pieces are gone. Ozzie Albies, we did not see last year, and he's going to be in their lineup every day. So for the most part, they're pretty similar to what we saw, but there's some different pieces that they have that we didn't see last year. And my focus is them. But in saying that, I know our division's very good. And we saw the Mets, they're very talented. Washington's very talented. Florida's very talented. There's a ton of good pitching in this division, which sometimes makes it difficult to score runs and you have to grind out at bats. But our division is stacked, and it's going to be, you can't take your foot off the gas at any point, or you could fall and lag behind.
You've been around the game for a long time. And I'm sure not much surprises you anymore, but is there anything that you've learned about a particular player this spring that you thought, okay, that's interesting? Anything stand out to you from spring headed into the season?
Not really. I think though that's really always interesting in spring training is the new faces that come in and getting to know those new faces, and you see how different people are, but how they're the same in a lot of ways. And it's different countries and different parts of the US that they come from and different backgrounds. And I always find that fascinating when dealing with players. But I don't know if there's one thing that really stuck out to me that I haven't necessarily seen, but you can look at Alvarado. You don't see 94-mile-an-hour sliders every day. You don't see those. You don't see 101, every day. And that kind of sticks out a little bit.
All right. We have time for two more. We'll go to Gabe, and then we'll go back to Matt Gelb to finish.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Good, Gabe. How are you?
I'm good, man. I was just talking about how we in baseball from time to time you'll hear somebody sort of anointed as the so-called face of baseball, which is something you probably heard a lot about with Aaron in 2017 and with Derek, and Bryce was that guy for a while. Now we're hearing it about Tatis. Is that just kind of a tough title to put on somebody, or an unrealistic sort of expectation that we seem to just keep going over and over again in the industry?
I never had that type of talent that anyone would ever call me the face of baseball. I think it's pretty exciting. I think certain guys will handle it better than others. They might put a little bit more pressure on themselves the first time they hear it. But in reality, I think it's a great compliment. It talks to your talents and how you live your life on and off the field and the excitement that you provide the game. So, and it can be different every year, but I think you see a lot of the same faces every year. And I think it's really a compliment. It's a responsibility, but you should take on that responsibility every day because you want to be responsible to your family and your organization, how you act on and off the field. But you might be under a microscope a little bit more, but I think more than anything, it's a compliment, and a player should be excited about that and just go out and play hard.
And do you think fans and media these days tend to move on too quickly and look for the next greatest thing just because obviously Aaron and Bryce and Mike Trout are still phenomenal players, yet suddenly like the focus, I don't know, do we tend to move on quicker to the next shiny object?
Well, I don't think that's really unusual to do that. When you see a young player come up and gains a lot of attention, you look at the Tatises and Acuna and Soto and the type of players they are and the excitement that they provide. I don't think it's unusual to get excited about that. And I think that, it starts off as a little bit of talk and it gains momentum as time goes on. And all of a sudden that's who everybody's talking about. Because 2 years ago, people probably hadn't heard about Tatis a lot. They just hadn't, but now everyone has. And people probably had not heard about Acuna Jr. and Soto 3 or 4 years ago a lot. Yeah, maybe they were prospects, but you're like, well, I want to see that prospect really do it. And I think it just kind of steamrolls, and it's probably rightfully so, because it's good for our game.
Thank you.
Joe, just real quick, Dave had alluded yesterday that you guys need to see something from Torreyes. Now you mentioned that Maton is there today. Is there a question about Torreyes making the team now because of that hand injury?
No, he's okay. Maton's here just because we needed some left-handed hitters.
Okay, so Torreyes is fine. He'll be put on the roster.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Joe, thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.